to
because we think it might be something to do with YouTube if it is. So we'll
so
try
can you let
again.
us know quite quickly if the audio is working all right? I mean, I can.
Did you hear anything that we said before as well? Do we need to start again?
Pretty hard, wasn't it?
Third time lucky.
Third time lucky.
Third time lucky.
Classic. We're now blurry. Flipping heck. Classic. We're now blurry. You can hear us. Flip it. Oh no, that's it. It's cleared up. Is that better?
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Thank you, everybody. First of all, let's just address Chi-Chi. There's Chi-Chi. Look at her.
Oh, bless her.
Oh, bless her. I mean, sorry we couldn't be with you yesterday, but she wasn't well. Mark had to take her to the vet last night. It's just an ongoing thing. Her vasculitis
played
just
up
knocks her for 6 sometimes, but they've just increased her steroids. Just look at her though. How cute is she? Chi-Chi.
Oh, she's got her head on the side.
Look, she's going to come and say hello.
She was so cute going out. They had to put these like litmus paper in her eye to work out her tear creation. But it was like a mini ruler that they stuck under the eyeball. And then we had to hold her eyes shut.
Such a good girl. I love this dog.
Oh, let's stick with Chi-Chi rather than the crazy times.
Yeah. Did you hear anything we were saying before about Ukraine?
So you were saying that you'd heard people from Ukraine talking about how awful it is.
You'd had calls from their families in the early hours explaining the shelling, and the airports were gone and the runways were gone. And then I've just listened to an address from their Prime Minister calling out for people to go and give blood now because there are soldiers in hospital needing blood, and for everyone, I think you said 16 to 60, to go to fight.
Well, the reservists, they're calling up all reservists aged 16 to 60, and it reminds you of how quickly in certain countries you can get to a place where suddenly everyone is of war-fighting age.
If anyone here is Ukrainian or has any, please let us know what your experience is and how you're feeling today, because I cannot imagine how you are coping today. It's so frightening for you. And when you hear that Mark,
thank you,
because it's only in one region of it, so it's just that bit that the airport has been blown up.
No, I'll tell you what. I think what they're trying to do. They're trying to kind of neuter the Ukrainian country. They would rather they weren't a friend of the West. They want to weaken them. They want to do all of that. He wants to demilitarize Ukraine. He's using these two regions as a sort of cloud cover for going in and doing something. But in order to do that most effectively, some of the missiles that they're firing all over the country are to take out, comms, communications, military stores. They're probably going to want to take out lots of key bridges and stuff like that. So they want to knock the infrastructure of Ukraine. He has said, Putin, that we can take everything he says with a pinch of salt, that he has no interest to occupy Ukraine. He wants to control these regions. Now, the problem with these regions that he wants to control, they're even disputed in themselves as to how large they are. So, the Russian separatists say they're much bigger than they are. The Ukrainians say they're much smaller than they are. So that's where the focus of it is. When people say this is war in Europe, I do think there's a lot of, sensationalist language going on. This, of course, this is awful for Ukraine.
Awful.
But I think, you can see by the West's response in terms of sanctions and what have you, you cannot put boots on the ground. It's all well and good saying sanctions are no good. And yes, we can talk about whether they need to be stronger. That's for sure. But you cannot put boots on the ground. To quote Joe Biden, if there were American troops on the ground alongside Russian troops on the ground, it would be bedlam. We'd be in all sorts of trouble. And of course, the worry that everyone
We don't have them either.
We don't have what?
We don't have the numbers that you would need even.
Well, but
it's not even an option, even if it was a sane option.
Well, I mean, if you collectively took all the armies of the West and chucked them in there, you would have the numbers. I mean,
sorry, I thought you were just talking about the UK, sorry.
Yeah, no. NATO, if you could talk collectively, all the armies of NATO all brought together. It is war in Europe insofar as Ukraine has aspirations to be part of Europe and is considered European by many Ukrainians. So this is fucking awful for everyone in Ukraine. But I do think we have a responsibility to also manage the fears of everyone in their own countries. I think Germany's in a very vulnerable position. Russia has already said they will pay for it. And when they say language like pay for it, none of the news gathering services clarify what pay for it means. And invariably, what they're talking about is being paying for it in terms of energy sources and resources, financial sanctions back, that kind of stuff. We're not looking at Russia bombing Germany, but if you read just the headline, "We will make you pay for it,"
That's
it
what
leads you
you-
to that
yeah.
possible conclusion. So it's not to say this isn't a fucking critical, toe-curlingly frightening moment. It is, but he ain't going to nuke Ukraine, because if he nukes Ukraine, he essentially, it's like a huge act of self-harm. Tra-la-la, oh, wow, I hope you're
Natasha.
well. Oh, my husband has Ukrainian colleagues and they were desperately trying to get their families out. Lots of family members did not want to leave. They want to stay and stand ground.
No. And Natasha Milchan, morning guys, we in Moscow are devastated.
Lots of Russians don't want this to happen.
Because I suppose, Natasha, I don't ever know how much you hear in Russia. I don't know what the news
No.
reporting is like in Russia. So we know that obviously Putin has full and complete control. And, you know, when he gives these rambling speeches of why he has to do this, and you see these films of people being, that, you know, these propaganda films, we see them as propaganda films, of people having to be rushed out of Ukraine because they've been oppressed by the Ukrainians. How does it feel out there? What do the Russians think? What are the majority of Russians, in your opinion, feel about this?
Well,
because money is, people are living in a very, very difficult situation.
Well, and it's
in
going to
Russia.
get a whole
And
lot.
this is going to cost the ruble is at the lowest it's ever been, and
Ruble,
it could
yeah.
crash. The ruble, sorry, and it could crash.
Yeah, I mean,
What's
this is
that gonna mean for
what
people
I
there?
think Putin's going to do. This is going to be like a mad rush, and then it's going to clamp. I think it will clamp down.
Right.
I think he's going to rush out. Everyone's batshit crazy, quite rightly. We're all fearful, and then he's going to consolidate his gains. He's going to. That's why he's already using language like, "I'm not going to occupy Ukraine." He's going to look for any scintilla of space to say to the outside world, "This was the scope of our ambitions. We've accomplished our ambitions. We have no more." And what will happen then, I'd have thought, this is my prediction, he'll secure control of those two regions, and then a very slow process over the next 10 years of regime change and attempts to kind of unsettle and unseat the Ukrainian government will occur.
Alison Ria, I will be doing. I've never watched it. Watch Russia Today. She said it's really interesting.
Well, a
See
lot
how
of people are
think.
calling. A lot of people are calling for Russia Today to be closed down,
I
seeing
don't
it as a
think it
puppet
should,
of the state.
because apparently, no. Well, I heard yesterday. Was it somebody from Ofcom saying that that wouldn't be the right thing to do to shut it down? But I would be interested to. Yeah. No, have you ever looked at Russia Today?
Natasha Milchan, no, we're well aware of what's going on, and 99.9% are devastated and ashamed.
Sweetheart.
Wow.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for that insight.
Yeah.
I feel so sorry for all of the ordinary people of Ukraine and Russia, for the families of the Ukraine and Russian soldiers. Did you know, this is an awful detail which I shared with Nadia earlier this morning. The Russian army have mobile crematoria in their units. I mean, that's how much this man is looking at bodies as just a sort of mere inconvenience that needs to be
When
dealt
men
with.
play wars of game, you know, the game wars, and young men, well, Ukraine 16 to 60. Did you say 18 to 60?
18 to 60, I think, yeah. I mean, the Russians have, I can't remember what the numbers were, but I think the Ukrainians have a 90,000 strong army with 200,000 reservists. Those reservists, if called up, are between, I think, 16 or 18 and 60.
And while we've been getting on with the business of a pandemic, China and Russia have been strengthening their huge armies.
we've been, you know, beautifully compromised in their eyes. Reese Roberts says, cyber attacks sound so frightening. Imagine your hospitals, your homes, your businesses turned off at the drop of a hat and potentially staying off.
But I said this to Mark the other day. He said, come on, calm down. We do have defences. We're not literally just sat here shaking and that anything can be done to us. We are a force. We are a force to be reckoned with. We mustn't forget that. It's easy, because he's such a madman, to think that we have no defences whatsoever. Especially, you made me feel a bit better when I was panicking about cyber attacks. But, you know, the reporting now will all be about terrifying every single person in the world.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be...
That's what's going to be happening now.
Yeah, so the war, for all of us ordinary folk, we're going to have to now do that terrible thing like with COVID of what's real, what's not real, what's kind of hyperbole, what's exaggeration, what's clickbait, and what is the reality of the situation.
I've been listening all morning to the radio to all sorts of brilliant people on the radio on Nick Ferrari. Sorry, I can't remember who they are or what their jobs, but they were all proper. Do you know what I mean? And actually, a previous defence secretary was talking. He did make me feel a lot better because he was talking about further sanctions. And Nick Ferrari said, like we all keep doing, well, sanctions, what will it do? And he said, no, you've got to understand. He said, we haven't got anywhere near strict sanctions. And at 11 o'clock, there is a address to the nation from Boris because off the back of I think they had a NATO meeting, didn't they? And what we'll hope is that now the world comes down on them like a ton of bricks. I feel sorry for the Russian people because they're going to suffer. And he said, when Iran started posturing, this defense secretary started posturing about nuclear weapons and everything, it was the strictest sanctions that brought them back to the table. Yeah. Now, we have to think of the suffering. We've got Natasha here from Moscow, the suffering of the people. But maybe could this in any way bring Putin down? Could this be the end of him?
Well, he could overstretch. I mean, let's not forget, Hitler was brought down, ironically, when he decided to start fighting Russia. He overstretched himself in his campaign and his hunger. And you could argue, is this an overstretch for Putin? Well, he's got something like over half his army on the borders. This is a stretch. They haven't got any natural invaders. I mean, there's no one naturally thinking, you know what, we'll have a bite of Russia over there. So he doesn't need to feel too vulnerable anywhere else. But, could this be a stretch too far? It's a big country. It sits right on the edge of geographical Europe, for sure. And depending on the kind of what I can't even begin to imagine is that he wants to create another Afghanistan/Vietnam. Traditionally and historically, they never work, these wars.
I said to Mark, I really hope, well, I don't know, God, who would, no, what I feel is when you see the Ukrainians talking with such heart and passion and love for their country, and their leader is obviously a very decent, mild, measured man who has done everything to try and calm this situation down. They have the passion to save their country. And sometimes smaller armies can overwhelm bigger powers by that kind of humanity. And what you've got, I feel so sorry for these Russian soldiers that will all be conscript themselves, that have been kept out in the freezing fucking cold. For how long have they been there now? I mean, a long bloody time. Is there heart in this? Or do they know they're being sent in by a madman? Yeah. Their heart might not be in it.
David Shields, Putin will already know the massive sanctions that the West will take and will have factored this in. He doesn't care.
But eventually he would get squeezed by his people and by his oligarchs.
Will he?
I never know. But won't he?
Will he? I don't know. I mean, he has got the wild eye. I mean, to quote Ben Wallace, who will have missed it because we talked about it in the first two attempts at this live, Ben Wallace sort of said, our defence secretary said, he's gone full Tonto. Yeah. And there is a sort of helter-skelter aspect to his eyeballs.
Can I ask a question that might be really, really stupid? Right, okay, everybody, if this is really, really stupid, just forgive me. You know cryptocurrency?
Yeah.
Could he have been making himself a whole different currency? Is that a totally stupid question?
No, because he needs to. No, because it's only any value in relationship to other currencies.
Right.
No, yeah. I mean, he possibly is dealing in cryptocurrency, but that's
But I mean, what I mean is there a way that he's protected?
Possibly, in some capacity, yeah. But I don't know to what extent. It's not reliably sort of protecting. It wouldn't be reliably protective. Kelly, worry China will get involved. I don't know if they will. I mean, even China were kind of saying, don't do this.
I think they're not batshit crazy like he is at the moment. I mean, of course, they're a horrendous dictatorship and all of that, but they want the world stage, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think they need to. I think Taiwan probably feels a bit itchy. I reckon some of the leaders in Taiwan might be feeling a bit. One of the things that nations do is as soon as one nation's distracted over there, another nation sort of leaps in. I don't think America has offloaded so many troops that China could become. I don't know. I mean, what we're seeing and what we're feeling now is they're trying to shake up the world. The pecking order in the world, basically, aren't they? Russia's wanting to say we're as big and as brilliant as we always used to be. Putin wants to be taken seriously. He's doing it by force. He's going to alienate every country in the world. He's hoping that the degree to which the global markets are also inextricably entwined means that we can only do so much. We're kind of potentially proving that with our sanctions. He knows that we won't put boots on the ground. He knows that I mean, I have to say, and this is a terrible thing to say, I'd have thought a lot of Western leaders right now are a little bit relieved that Ukraine isn't a NATO country.
Yeah. Because that would mean...
Because if
but
it
would,
was,
but would have invaded if they were a NATO? That's the thing.
Precisely. That's the difference. I mean, you know, it's... I mean, someone on the radio yesterday, I think it was Ian Dale, was suggesting, let's make Ukraine NATO now. And I was like, fucking hell, if we did that now, it would be a red rag to a bull. I mean, it really would. It would just be... I think it would be catastrophic.
Hi, Martin. Nice to see you. Hi, first live in ages, and happy birthday for yesterday.
Yeah, we are going to be watching Boris live. This is going to be a slightly shorter coffee moaning because it's so specific. But I think one of the things we just wanted to come on and say is obviously no one knows what his next move is going to be. But at the same time, there is a propaganda war going on in Russia to the Russian people. There is a country under duress, fearing the extent to which they're going to be invaded. But then there's also a press in the West that knows that this is a commercially viable opportunity to get people clicking on the news. And I think there just needs to be a modicum of kind of restraint and calm that kicks in. Because yes, things are awful, you know, but it can't, my belief is it won't spill into a pan-European world war. It won't. It's an unfortunate, I mean, for example, when, you know, everything was going on in Syria, was there talk of there being a world war then? All major countries were involved. Russia was involved,
Yeah.
America, you know, so many. You know, sometimes I wonder if there's a sort of an element of almost racism in there, that as soon as it's a Middle Eastern country, this is what happens in the region. This is just the norm. Oh, what, Lebanon? Oh, what, Syria?
Hi,
oh, what,
Henrietta.
Iran? Oh, Israel being bombed. Oh, Palestine being bombed. Oh, no. This is just... That's always categorised as a Middle Eastern problem. But those are wars. They're real wars. Ask the Syrians.
Oh, B feels really distressed. Jacob, hello. Look, this is where it's really distressing. Mark makes me feel much better about, God, I was like, oh my God, are we all going to be at war? The distress is for the Ukrainian people and the Russian people. Our distress and our prayers and our heart goes out to them. But we are not going to be at war here,
No.
you know, and it feels, I mean, our kids were texting us today asking that, so, you know, I get it, and I was asking
And
you
the
2
Yemen,
days
and the
ago.
Yemen too, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Yemen has been absolutely
Yeah.
crucified, and that's
Horrendous.
not to minimise the impact of what's happening in Ukraine, but and the reason the kind of rhetoric has got to such stratospheric levels of war in Europe is because the West are trying to do everything they can to corral everyone onto the same page to be anti-Russian, and I think pretty much everyone is. But I don't even think Putin.
Anti-Russian, anti-Putin.
Anti-Putin.
Not
I don't
people.
even think Putin would want World War III in Europe. He does, sadly, want a sizable bite-sized chunk of the Ukraine. If this was happening in the Middle East, I hate to say it, the press and everyone would be going, oh, well, it's another conflict in the Middle East. Awful, but they just, you know, it's just about
Anthony Cottam saying,
moderation.
sees a lot of people saying, why are we getting involved? Well, it could be Putin won't stop with the Ukraine. I've just let... Oh, sorry. Yeah, I get the gist. Yeah, this is the thing. It's very, very important that NATO is involved because he has completely gone against international law, and you can't have that. We can't have that. Because then where are we going to be?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So there we go, guys.
Yeah.
We're going to be watching at 11. I think we're going to hear more severe sanctions. I presume and assume they're
Please
going to be
God.
chucking the strongest piece at the...
Is there any way that he could ever be overthrown, Putin, or is that completely
Sometimes
impossible?
I wonder whether the West have got anyone in there trying to take him out. But I mean, it'd be a brave person trying to get in there. Did you see the way he looked at his co-parliamentarian the other day?
Oh my God!
I mean, I wonder what's happened to him. So, guys, in the end, war is war, all
Natasha,
awful. You're absolutely right, Develop.
Thank you, everyone. We're okay here at the moment. It's our Ukrainian brothers and sisters.
Yeah. You know what the sad irony of all of this is that a lot of people in Ukraine viewed Russia as a sort of annoying but regional sibling. A lot of Ukrainians were far more sort of related far more to the Russian sensibility than they did to the West. And now this has gone to pot. I mean, if you want to send everyone against you, this is what you do. And in a sense, that's what he wants. Okay, guys. Well, look, stay safe, stay across it, and you know, we'll be back. What day is it? Friday, tomorrow at some point. All right.
Oh, hang on. Everyone's just asking about Chi-Chi that missed the end.
Oh, yeah.
If you missed us earlier at the beginning, Chi-Chi wasn't well yesterday, but Mark took her to the vets, and it's just her vasculitis that,
It's
you know,
just
she was
flared
so
up
poorly
again.
with. It's flared up again. I think this is going to be the way of her life now.
Yeah.
She just suddenly gets really low and
Yeah.
really, like, hardly wants to walk and stuff, and then they're trying to balance out the steroids. So we try and reduce them, then she gets ill again, and then we have to increase them, and it's just a sort of game because they want to eventually get off the steroids.
Yeah.
But thank you for
But
caring.
she's steady.
Lots of love.
Lots of love, guys.